just there on the back line to heal it up. Shout out, of course, to the supports. Continue to put in the work here. And Pluto does have that Falcon at the ready. Have to be careful of that. Now Bunga takes aim at the opposing Pharah. Not going to be able to come up with it, at least yet, for that early pick. And now Green Bay is going to back off, try to protect this point as best they can. And Dilly is going to come up with one in the ult already. The fight's going to ensue. A trade happens here, but it looks like the hero advantage remains to the side of Green Bay. And now the res comes through for Dilly, goes back up in the air. It is going to find another one, teaming up with Savathun here on the Roadhog, who's continuing to pull up that presence. Hooks one back in and finds another here. So Green Bay continues once again this stagger. They're looking strong. They could go for 100% here.
Yeah, this is a really good play by UWGB. Realizing that they're able to stagger a couple of heroes on O players team is a really good move, especially since Vog got really low on hazard and forced him to walk out. Now they have to regroup and lose time, and UWGB is already at 90%.
90% now, and they're going to re-engage here yet again. Savathun on this Roadhog finds another 2 kills. Jay gonna get taken down to the process, but at this point it's too little too late for the team fight to go to the favor of Blue Gold, and it is a quick second point for the Green Bay Phoenix. They will take map 1.
Yeah, we just saw some really good support gameplay there, just enabling Savathun and Dilly to pretty much just run the lobby almost uncontested. So there's definitely going to be some targeted bans next game, and depending on the map, we're probably going to, or I guess the map and the game mode, we're probably going to see a similar play out to that round with our tanks dominating the game mostly.
Yeah, we'll see what exactly they decide to go with here. Of course, remember, the counterpick rules here state that they can go to any mode that they want to that has yet to be played. They can't go back to control if they so desire, but that leaves basically everything else in the book open up. If I had to guess, Mason, if you had to pick maps where the pharmacy is less effective, where would you have to go? Because I feel like that was a large part of the struggle, right?
Yes.
For this. And, I suppose what you probably want to be in somewhere that's a little more enclosed, but then you don't want to open yourself up to Junker Queen ult or something.
Yeah, it's gonna be a tough choice. They're gonna have to pick which one they're more easily able to deal with. Of course, they could always ban one and just deal with the other. So as far as maps for pharmacy, I would expect to see something with a roof, and I would say Dorado is probably a good pick because that third point is basically all enclosed. Really, there's not a lot of maps that you can just completely shut down pharmacy on. I mean, most maps have like 1 or 2 enclosed points, but there's mostly always going to be 1 or more open points on a map. I would expect to see probably a Dorado would be a good one, but push would be a bad map to have to play against a Junker Queen on. So unless they're banning Junker Queen, that might not be a good option for them.
So Dorado would be great if it was in the map pool. Is the reality of the of the situation. There are only a few maps that are in the map pool. You can't just pick anything in the book here.
Okay.
So you got some options. Also worth saying, of course, that Flashpoint and Clash are counted as the same mode. Although now that I look at this, it looks like Clash was just completely taken out. So now you can only go to Flashpoint on those two. Which I guess makes sense. I don't think anybody ever picked Clash for fun.
Yeah, Clash isn't I would say, not a very well-received game mode by the Overwatch community in general.
Yeah, right.
But of these maps, all of them seem pretty open to Pharah. I mean, on Escort, you got Circuit Royale, that's pretty much open the whole way. Rialto, mostly open the whole way. Route 66 only has third point in an enclosed area, so it's going to be very difficult for both teams to deal with the pharmacy because both teams had pharmacy that entire match basically. So it really could go either way. I'm not expecting to see any specific map being picked here as a result of this.
Well, the map pick is in. Eau Claire has decided to choose Numbani, and they have gone with the other option, which is just ban the Pharah completely. Which, fair enough, right?
That was a good choice. Yeah, that was a very good choice.
The way this works, of course, in the ban process is that one team gets to choose, the team that lost the last game gets to choose the map that they go to next, given that it is not in a mode that's been previously played. And then they're able to ban the first hero away. In doing so, they lock out the opposing team from banning in the same category. So now, if you're Green Bay, you have to choose between banning a tank and a support. They end up choosing to ban the hero that I definitely know.
Zarya.
Oh, it is Zarya. Okay.
Yeah.
Why did I was thinking Zyra because I was getting those two confused in my head because
That's
there's a lot of games and character knowledge that is in my head at all times. All good.
In my mind, this is that was Eau Claire's ban, correct?
Eau Claire's ban was
Zarya?
Pharah.
Oh, okay.
Green Bay's ban is Zarya.
Okay, that's a good ban by Green Bay because if they're going to continue playing Junker Queen, Zarya Bubble is able to cleanse, which means that Junker Queen's bleed ability is going to be taken away and her ultimate is going to be taken away. So banning Zarya was a very smart move for tank. I think the only other better ban they could have picked would have been to ban Kiriko, but UWGB had a Kiriko on their team, so they wouldn't want to take away one of their main support roles there.
Yeah, and I mean, over the course of the season so far, or I should say the second half of the season, I don't think I've seen Savathun pull out a Zarya or be very happy to pull out a Zarya. Certainly not necessarily a hero that he's more comfortable on. So makes sense overall, right? Considering this. And the other thing to note is all player profiles are public in the WEC. So you're able to do a little bit of digging into your opponent, figuring out what they might like to go to for a lot of these ones. And so that's where these bans start coming in. Or you show up to the game and you figure out what exactly it is. But of course, Eau Claire did their research. But of course, you can't ban the same hero twice. And what do we see here but Cheb on the Mauga for Eau Claire to start things off. What do you notice in these comps?
Taking a minute to look at these, and I'm realizing that Vogue was off-rolling if he's a Genji player, and that's most likely a result because of that Mauga ban. Cheb didn't have any characters he felt comfortable on, and I don't think Ametryo is going to be a very good matchup against Mauga here, just because he's such a big target.
Also worth noting, a little bit of a swap here. Savathun now over to the DPS on the Widow here early. Dilly switches over to the tank here, and Green Bay is going to pick up 2 picks of their own. We'll see if they can continue this into more of a sustained push. For the moment, it looks like they're able to at least cap this point, and they'll get the first one. We'll see now if they're able to send the cart moving.
Got some big headshots there by Savathun on Widowmaker. That's going to be a problem for Eau Claire because they don't have a shield tank to really block these headshots from Savathun. They're going to have to rely on Vogue on Genji or the Kiriko to really take care of that Widow.
Going to have to look for things here, and you see Vogue on the Genji already. Takes down Pulabunga on this Ashe. And we've watched Genji players continue to be nuisances in general over the course of the season so far. Vogue, I imagine, has to be incredibly comfortable here. Now is going to be looking to do just that towards Green Bay. Pluto going to get taken out first in this fight. And we'll see how the rest of this one goes here. Not many ults online, and Swagcat gonna come up with a couple here. That's a triple. Cheb gonna clean up Dilly, and that's Eau Claire stopping this payload in its tracks.
What a play by Swagcat on Junkrat, getting 1 kill, or getting 3 kills with 1 single mine. I've never seen that.
Ultimate economy in the favor of Blue Gold here. They're about to have all 5, and so this fight's gonna be an uphill battle for Green Bay. They have to try to turn this corner here, and that's going to be difficult to do. Vogue already going to get spotted, has to dash on away to safety. Chad is going to try to hold this corner, actually, as a matter of fact, as Green Bay starts to move on in. And see Pluto here trying to assist. Dilly going to pick up one, make that two. Now on this ult. Another one gets trapped in here, and now it's 3 down on the other side as Vogue's going to come up with a few, taking down these members of Green Bay one by one. That is all ults used for Eau Claire, and that is a one-team fight for them.
I think Ram is going to be difficult for UWGB in order to capture this point, because what I'm seeing here is supports are having to put all their energy into Dilly's Ram, not really giving DPS the space and support to be able to perform at the level of, let's say, Vogue on Genji.
Now, Jeff dashing in, or away, I should say, rather, back towards their teammates. Start to see Green Bay move forward here a little bit. Savathun already, though, taking down the DPS player. Dilly going to come up with 2, continuing to try to keep the momentum alive here for Green Bay. Vogue diving after Palabunga will pick up the kill, but will trade their own life for it. That'll be 4 down for Eau Claire here, and finally Green Bay will pick up a little more momentum here towards the second point. Stalled out, though, for quite some time, even if these fights continue happening.
Yeah, I think Savathun and Pluto here are going to be the main problems for this Genji. I think they recognized early that Vogue was kind of running the lobby here a little bit, and they've been focusing him now and getting him to not get as much value, which is a really good play by UWGB here.
CGB turn the corner. Starting to come up with something here. Vogue trying to pick things up from afar, but now Dilly pops the Annihilation, gets 2 in the process. Palabunga will be able to follow up there, getting yet another. So a good use of the ultimate here, and Dilly coming through as the swapped in tank player. I actually don't know when the last time Dilly played tank for this team was, but is doing so here and comes up with a play here, looking for the 3rd cap. Is Green Bay right now. All they have to do is try to prevent this from happening, and the Malga is just too late. Cheb can't get to the point in time, and that'll be Green Bay clearing with 3 minutes remaining.
That was a really good decision by Dilly there to push up while the Junkrat was ulting, because it allowed him to get a free pick, since Junkrat is stationary during his ult and can't really react to anybody. So getting that pick for free really helped them win that team fight.
Hats off there, of course. And I was talking about this a little bit earlier today. I mean, I know many rosters in the WEC have had some general inconsistency, roster troubles, this, that, and the other thing. The Green Bay team has had to swap around a little bit. We've seen Jay play tank. Aji was in for a while for this team. Dilly has since stepped up, and now this is the same roster typically that you'll see. But Savathun has been on the tank for a while now. Dilly's getting a turn on tank. I wouldn't be surprised come regionals to see Pluto get a game on tank or something of the sort, because it feels like everybody has played it nearly here. And hey, they're finding some amount of success, right?
Yeah.
With everyone knowing each other's roles.
I think that UWGB is in a very good position here. It seems everybody's comfortable on almost any role, and they're sitting here with 3 minutes time left on the clock after their capture. So as long as they play careful and don't overextend, I think we're going to see UWGB come out on top here again, unless we get some good swaps on Eau Claire.
See how this one progresses. Savathun switches over to the Mei. Dilly actually picks one off here early, and already the res has to come through from STR, but even still, Green Bay putting the pedal to the metal here, taking the fight to Eau Claire rather than waiting them approach this point. Something that Green Bay has done is play a little bit more of this tempo. They're successful in doing so, as now that's 3 more going down for Eau Claire, and Green Bay have repelled the first push.
Yeah, we saw a little overextension there by Pluto, leaving them down a support, maybe vulnerable to a counter push right here. But I think the Ana by Jay was a great swap to counter this Mauga, so hopefully that'll work out in UWGB's favor, even though they're down a support right now.
Dilly right in the way as this Mauga attempts to push through and just doesn't have the support necessary to do so. Dilly comes up with 3 with the support of the rest of the team, notably the DPS players. Starts to go for here, and now both go down at the same time, and yet another trade. But at the moment, really here, Mason, these trades are going to favor Green Bay without anybody standing on the point from Eau Claire.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to see... I don't know. We got some good picks on both sides. It's too early to tell in the game, really, what's going to happen. But I have noticed that Eau Claire seems to be really disjointed, having people go on flank routes and getting picked off. I think they need to coordinate a little bit better, and they might be able to capture this first point here soon.
Now, ult on a line. Dilly, though, once again in the annihilation, comes up with 2. Jay gonna get in on the play here as well. And again, Green Bay finds their way, makes the play happen, and continues picking up the tempo, taking this fight over to Eau Claire, and they're really not relenting.
Yeah, Eau Claire just... I think it would be really beneficial if they just took some time to group up. We see Chegg here trying to go down main while Vogue on Soldier and Mercy are both going on a separate route, and ultimately their pushes are getting stopped before they even start.
A couple more go down as the DPS players get involved. There's another few, and once again, this stagger continues. And typically, when you see these kills get drawn out over time, it means that one team is constantly at a player advantage on the map. Right now, 5v3, where this fight is happening, and that's where the call now is made for Eau Claire. They're attempting to regroup and find some kind of play here. It's going to be that much more difficult, though, as Dilly and Savathun already in possession. Trying to come around on this angle here. Chev is in position as long as the rest of the team, and now Savathun dives in on the May wall, comes up with the Blizzard here, gets one with it, and 2 others to follow. Chev gonna pick up one, looking for something here to turn the fight, but again, it's only 2 members alive right now. Savathun gonna pick off there, and Dilly will get another in the annihilation. Green Bay likely just had what could be the game-securing fight, although Chev does have an ult ready on this map.
Yeah, right here, Eau Claire's in a very bad position. They have probably only 1 team fight left, and they only have Mauga ult on Chev, which is... It can be a game-changing fight, but with Amplification Matrix... Oh wait, they swapped Juno, but with Bob out, it's not going to be very impactful.
Overtime now as finally Eau Claire has pushed their way onto the point, but again, Green Bay is there. Vogue tries to come up on the flank angle. Too little, too late. Once more, Green Bay is going to hold the 3-0 on the scoreboard. They will take map 2 here. They are looking to go 4-4 on the season, winning their last 4 games after a rough first split.
I think that last fight actually might have been pretty winnable for Eau Claire. Just nobody stepped on the point. I think, I mean, it was a little hard to tell who was alive and who wasn't, but I think that Eau Claire might have been able to pull that through if they just had somebody on the point. It's pretty frustrating for Eau Claire, I can imagine, but maybe they'll bring it back in 3rd match, depending on... I mean, they have bans. They can always ban somebody that is a strong player in UWGB, but it seems that Eau Claire just needs to work on their communication and team play a little bit. They're always very disjointed, and I guess we'll just have to see how they play 3rd match.
See, you say go for the bans, but the Pharah has to come back up this time.
Oh, that's true.
Go back to banning the Pharah, and we saw what that did in map 1. Maybe they'll actually go after the Mercy and just ban the Mercy.
I was just going to say they could ban Mercy.
Ban the other half of it, but even still, I think we've seen Dilly not be afraid to play Pharah anyway. So we'll see, of course, what that is. One of the other interesting things about the way the character bans work right now is you don't have to declare your roster ahead of the character bans necessarily, and so that's why I believe that swap was allowed. between roles for Dilly and Savathun, who obviously was able to come in on the May there for the defensive side of that last map and had a very significant play there towards the end, turning kind of that last major team fight. The other thing I want to comment on, right, at the end of games, it's very difficult to have your team fully grouped up. The overtime siren is blaring. You see the indicator on your screen in the center saying that you're in overtime and everybody panics, right? It's just that much more difficult to actually get a coordinated play going towards the very end of the game. Typically, when you can take it slower towards the beginning, you'll be a little bit, it'll be easier for the team to have that coordination all together. Didn't quite see that again. Also, mostly thanks to the fact that Green Bay was doing a great job of disrupting a lot of that play. And it's another thing. It's one thing to be coordinated. It's another thing when there's another team that immediately throws a wrench into your plan with something like a May wall going up, right? Or something like that Ramatra ultimate popped, right? Immediately, just becoming more of a presence and more of a nuisance in a position that you weren't necessarily expecting.
Yeah, I'm expecting to see Eau Claire probably dive after the supports a little more just because of the uptime on Dilly's Ramatra. He's just able to get his ult so often and just shut down team fights essentially. So
Counter picks are coming in. Eau Claire has chosen Circuit Royale. Also, I feel like another favorite map pick in the league so far. I'd be very curious to have map pick information on what maps teams decided to go to, because I feel like this one has got to be up there, at least for series that Green Bay has played so far this season. So regardless, right, of how they feel about it, have to be feeling relatively comfortable. The other thing comes through is Mauga is banned again. So don't elect to go for the Mercy ban. Eau Claire decides to take away Savathun's Mauga.
I'm a little bit surprised at that Mauga ban. It seemed like they had a better thing going with Ramatra rather than Mauga. And then they have the Genji ban, obviously targeted at Vogue, because he was probably Eau Claire's most impactful DPS character. And I'm not too surprised that they picked Escort as the third match. I don't know why they chose Circuit Royale specifically, but Escort is a really, really good game mode for if you're feeling down on the attack side of things, because attack is really strong on Escort. You're able to get kind of like a snowball effect going when you have momentum and the defending team is kind of broken apart. You see overextensions more often because the defending team kind of has to go on the attack when it's getting closer to capturing their point. So I think, was that Eau Claire that chose the map? Yeah, I think that was a good pick by Eau Claire, just trying to get a little bit of momentum started.
We'll see, of course, whether or not they can get that momentum started and keep the snowball rolling. That's the other half the battle too, right? Is it's one thing to actually get something going, but then you got to keep it going along the way. We'll see whether or not they can do that, of course. Had some signs of promise in some of those defensive fights versus Green Bay in the first half of the last game, and certainly made the first point on Ilios close, right? But I think this Green Bay team is incredibly confident on Ilios alone. That map also probably one of the most frequently picked across the WEC. So yeah, we'll see how this one goes against Circuit Royale. What other heroes do you think we might end up seeing here that we haven't seen so far?
I was just going to say Genji would be great on this, so I think it's going to be a little bit of a hindrance that Genji was banned. Usually dive comp is always strong on Escort, so maybe like a Winston as tank for the attacking team, Tracer, really anybody with high mobility and burst damage is going to be really good, trying to burn the supports down to stop the Dilly's Ramatra from just being able to have insane amount of uptime. Junker Queen, that's a very good dive tank as well. That was a good choice by UWGB on attack.
So back to the Junker Queen, back to the original roles are Dilly and Savathun, despite being in the wrong position on the lobby, but all good as things go. Savathun, once again, already picks off Cheb on this Tracer first, and so feeling pretty confident, I have to imagine, if you're Green Bay. Of course, defensives have been set up and immediately, actually, Kalabunga taken down from afar thanks to the Zenyatta Swagcat taking care of business there.
I think the Zenyatta was a very good pick. They realized that the tank is going to be the biggest problem on UWGB, so Swagcat able to have that Discord out on the tank is going to be huge for Eau Claire.
Contested down is the race car in the middle. And they don't see much happening here. Dilly's going to find one on STR. That's the tank player taken down for Eau Claire, meaning that their presence here is not going to be able to be maintained, and you see indeed the rest of them will give away. As now we approach this first point, see Vog get set up here on this left side, immediately called out and now taken down. Dilly finds two on the Cassidy on the swing, looking potentially here for a few more even. Can't come up with it for now. Green Bay, though, might have to be careful. Oh, never mind. High noon pop from Dilly. That's two down. Savathun going to come up with Cheb, and that is the complete wipe. Two down, then another three. Another clear past this first point and start the cart on its way up this bend. But sometimes, Mason, this is exactly the point where Green Bay struggles.
Yeah, I think Dilly and the Junker Queen, Savathun, however, are making a really good team right here. Cassidy's a little unusual of a pick to see in a dive comp just because he doesn't have much mobility. But Junker Queen's commanding shout is able to give him some speed boost, allowing him to keep up and just run down Eau Claire's defense.
On the line, we'll see what they're able to do now on the Widowmaker. Takes down Jay from afar, one of the supports. Now down, and STR going to make their presence known here, popping that ult. Swagcat going to pick up one here, and now Green Bay starting to lose the fight. Pluto trying to heal up Paulabungo while Paul is trying to escape. It looks like even still Green Bay going to get split in this fight. Swagcat picks up another one onto Dilly, and the car will hold here for now.
Although UWGB did lose that fight, they drew out some of Eau Claire's ultimates and they still captured the point. So they're really not down any time here or any team fights of significance.
STR gonna pick up another one against Savathun. Dilly up in the air on the Pharah, immediately called out. Didn't have the supports line of sight at the ready. A little bit of an overextension there. That's a two down now for the Green Bay Phoenix as this car continues to get stalled out at the second point. Still plenty of time on the clock here, but obviously you'd prefer to have it later. Vog, though, picks up yet another on Paulabunga as this stagger continues. Now Pluto is down two, and Vog is still a presence on this map on the Widowmaker. Basically the exact opposite, it feels, of the game.
Yeah, I think this Widowmaker is a very good pick by Vog, just because, again, no shield tank on UWGB, allowing Vog to kind of just aim past their tanks and pick off the back line. However, they do have Nano Bob ready on UWGB, which would be a really team-winning push here.
Swagcat takes out Dilly out of the sky, but now with the Bob out, Paulabunga and Jay start to move on forward with Savathun here on the Junker Queen. He'll pick up one against the Zenyatta that's been a nuisance so far and continues to try to turn the corner with Jay as the support following here around. Finally, Green Bay has broken something through. Now the question becomes, how much momentum can they actually build up, especially with one of their DPS players getting taken down already? Savathun will have the Rampage online here. We'll see where he elects to use it.
Yeah, Savathun having ult here is really big for UWGB. That's a really, really good ultimate, not only for survivability for Savathun, but also anti-ing all of the rest of Eau Claire's team is going to be really, really good.
There it is, dives in, finds Cheb and Swagcat in the process. Vog's going to pick off Dilly, and STR actually is going to start trying to do something here with their own ults, but it's not going to be enough, it looks like, in this fight. Savathun picks off yet another 2, including the opposing tank. And Green Bay, once again, will complete the map with 3 minutes remaining.
Yeah, that was a really great, near flawless, I would say, round for UWGB. Had a couple overextensions that did cause some team fights, but as far as any shooter, first-person shooter, hero game goes, that's pretty much to be expected. And I know I said that Escort is going to be a really good attack map for both teams, really, but this is a good chance for Eau Claire to make up some space here. But I don't see how they could really outperform that by a large margin. So this is either going to be really, really close, or we're going to see the same trend of UWGB dominating the game a little bit.
Yeah, there was some wiggle room left in that game, right? A couple of team fights, Eau Claire won again, but will it be enough is the question, right? The clock could certainly be larger if Green Bay had taken care of business there, but some wiggle room for Eau Claire to set themselves up well for the potential overtime should it come through. Of course, we'll see whether or not they're able to do just that. But again, with the way these team fights have been going so far, it's still going to be an uphill battle. You mentioned that this is attack-sided. What do you think Eau Claire is going to be looking for here to get the momentum up and prevent Green Bay from controlling the pace of the game, even on defense?
I think Vogue on Widowmaker is still a really good choice here. He'll be able to pick off backline. That's something I'm expecting to see, especially with Jay on Ana trying to contest Vogue a lot, which hasn't really been working out in their favor. And even if they just have to really capture third point, because you can turn the tides in overtime if you just have a really strong hold on defense. So it really could still go either way here.
Looks like the May wall up from Dilly as Green Bay attempts to bring the fight this time around. Savathun continues to hop around here, but it looks like the rest of the team has left him as now Vogue takes down 2. Chet will get 1 for the road, and Olabunga might get 1 on the exit here, but it looks like it's Eau Claire early. Dilly goes frozen for a moment, but will soon be picked off. Seems to be prolonging the inevitable, and there he goes. So already some momentum here for the side of Blue Gold.
Yeah, I think, oh, well, he just swapped off. I was just going to say, I think Dilly on May is actually going to be pretty useful here just for drawing out time. But Sigma's a good swap as well. Great defensive tank, and he's got pretty good survivability with his shield and his kinetic grasp, giving him some more health. So I think that was a fair swap off.
See the Sigma here quite a bit as well for the ultimate, picking up everyone in the air in a near area that Gravitic Flux and slamming them down immediately. Plus that shield that you were mentioning earlier could be a response to the Widowmaker and the counterwatch meta that is always played. Even still, Vogue will find 1 against Jay in this team fight here first, and a lot of ultimates are online now for Eau Claire. Should they decide to use them here to cap this first point, I imagine they'll pop some of them, and indeed, there's 1 from STR. Picks off 1. Kolobonga will find 1 here as well, but it's Green Bay that mostly goes down, and Eau Claire will cap the first point.
I think Savathun is going to have a little bit of a tough time dealing with this Orisa, just because Fortify makes them immune to Sigma's Rock, which is kind of his main area of his kit, just landing stuns on people. So I think we might see a little bit of struggle here on Green Bay, but Dilly is back on that Pharah. He will have to be careful of Vogue, however. He's been getting some very impactful hits.
Dilly already taken out for the first part of this fight by Swagcat. See now whether or not Eau Claire can continue to capitalize. They're not really swinging this corner, pushing much of the issue. There's Savathun in the Flux, will slam down 1 and lock down the area for the time being, but now an ult on the backside here as well. Even still, no one's gone down quite yet. Kolobunga, though, has started to move forward, and Vogue will find a trade in addition. Kolobunga, 1 with the Bob against Vogue. That's the Widowmaker going down on the back line for Blue Gold. Potential opportunity here for Green Bay to start moving in. Pluto gonna find 1, and now starting to lose their grip on the cart right now is Blue Gold, but even still, They're in the area looking to try to find this re-engagement. Doesn't look like it's going to come through quite yet, though, especially with STR getting taken down. That opposing tank, Palapanga, comes up with a couple there in that last fight. That'll slow this push down for Eau Claire.
Savathun swapping to Zarya here is a very important change because Zarya is able to burn down Orisa through any of their abilities. But one thing that was a little hard to spot that last team fight was Swagcat using his Iari ultimate and getting absorbed by Savathun and Sigma, just shutting down that ultimate completely, which is probably why we're getting Swagcat switching on the Moira here.
Starting to see the engagement come through around the bend here. Green Bay continues to take the fight to Eau Claire. Savathun and Palapanga each picking up one. That'll continue to stall things out now with one member of Eau Claire starts to leap forward here. Cheb attempting to get some more work done here on the Junkrat. Just trying to stall out the cart for now, but will get picked off in the process. Of Savathun looks to hold this angle. Now 5v4, at least for the time being. See whether or not Green Bay can actually push this here, but actually ult economy looks pretty even for the moment. Savathun very close to having that Zyra gravity pull in here as well. Dilly also looking for something on this side.
Yeah, I think Savathun's grab is going to be really the deciding ultimate here. It's one of the strongest ults in the game, just being able to lock down everybody's movement, especially with that hack we just saw there.
Hack comes out. Dilly's going to be able to find one, and the rest of Green Bay continues to follow up on it. That's 4 members down, and now the tank gets melted as well. 1 minute left on the clock here for Blue Gold to get it through point 2, but then beyond that, just has a couple of few extra seconds to get it all the way back to that 3rd point. We'll see whether or not Green Bay can attempt to hold here, though.
One thing I'm surprised that we're not seeing is either team waiting out to stagger their opponents. Right there when we saw STR on Orisa get taken out, they could have waited a little bit longer to get that elim just to stagger the team a little bit more.
One thing I will say at this point now, Eau Claire, this is their 8th map of Overwatch tonight. Not to mention any practice they might have had beforehand. They'd have 5-game series versus Wisconsin Lutheran College just before this match. So you have to imagine the exhaustion starting to set in and the size come in now in the calls as they get taken down. Vogue finds one for the road, but it's 4 down against them. 10 seconds left on the clock to get towards this cart with Savathun pushed all the way forward here. It's going to be very difficult for them to find their way up to that car, and they will not. Green Bay will win this series 3-0 for the last match of the regular season, going 4-0 in their 2nd split to the WEC season to finish at 500.
Yeah, that was a really great decision by really the entire UWGB team to push up there at the end to the spawn doors, just because Eau Claire did have Juno ult. So if they were able to somehow touch point, that Juno ult really could have decided that entire last team fight. It's probably one of the strongest ults in the game, not even just the strongest support ult. So that was a really good decision to kind of put the nail in the coffin, I guess, by UWGB there.
Multiple times in that series, Green Bay has showed sometimes the best defense is a better offense. Once again, taking the fight to Eau Claire multiple times over, and that disrupted what they were trying to do. And there at the end, of course, basically made it impossible for the objective to even be a question towards the very end of that game. So great stuff, of course, from Green Bay here. You imagine a little bit of that confidence boost heading into the regional tournament, which will take place not this weekend, but the following at UW Stevens Point. Green Bay will be participating in the Northwest region versus a handful of other teams, most notably Concordia in that pool, which is a team that came down to map 5.5 on Flashpoint earlier this season. So I imagine this team is really hoping that they get the shot for that rematch, especially given by the fact that it'll be on land.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this UWGB team really go into really matches against anybody. It's really a great thing to see such good teamwork and good decision making, with obviously a couple of mistakes here and there, but overall, really great team, really great communication. I'm excited to see what they're going to do in the future.
Teams picked it up again in the back half of this season, and they're going to ride that wave all the way towards regionals. So, folks, thank you for being a part of that journey in some small part. You'll be sure to find information regarding the regional tournament and where you can watch that on our YouTube page. We'll be sure to make a post there where you can follow along with all the action that's going on with the Wisconsin Esports Conference. But this weekend, you'll also be able to tune in to the first Green Bay Invitational featuring 3 other teams in League of Legends coming in to Green Bay for a little LAN there. So be sure to tune in. Action will start at 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday and Sunday for that event. And that will be right here on this YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe for more updates. Also want to shout out that it is Giving Day at UW Green Bay. If you are at all interested in providing support to the students involved at this institution, there is a link in our video description to take you to the Giving Day page. Any support for the university is always appreciated. But with that, that'll do it from us here tonight in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The Green Bay Phoenix will take it over Blue Gold Esports JV Overwatch roster 3 maps to 0. Thank you all for watching and have a good night.